I am continuing this series of helping the collective to connect with their higher self, hear their higher self, and align their energy with their higher self. In this episode, I'm going to continue what we had started in the previous episode, where we were talking about being able to sense, feel, and communicate with our higher self or our spirit team. So if that's something you're interested in, stay tuned. Welcome to the Soul Alignment Mentor Podcast. I'm your host, Angie, and I'm inviting you to explore the depths of self-sabotage, limiting mindsets, and the beliefs that hinder our progress in life. Through intuitive messages I receive from my spirit team, I share profound insights to help you live authentically and break free from these limitations. Join me now as we uncover all the keys to living your best life. Welcome back. My name's Angie, and I'm your Soul Alignment Mentor, bringing you intuitive messages from my spirit team to help you align with your most authentic and highest self. So if you've been on this journey for a while of awakening and you're working on raising your vibration, clearing out old traumas, wanting to expand in your spiritual gifts or the ability to work with your higher self or spirit team, then you've likely attempted to try to hear from your spirits or your higher self, or even develop the abilities of your clairs in some way. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about that development and how important your energetic field is when it comes to communication with your higher self and your spirit guides. If you did watch the previous video where I talk about speaking with your higher self and your soul, in the end of that, I left you with an invitation of a challenge to start spending at least 5 days or 5 minutes a day in meditation where you just focused on your own energy field and raising your vibration. And when you do this, when you get to know your own energy, you're able to sense and feel the energies that come in around you, whether that's from other people or from your spirit team or other spirits that might come around. And this is one of the first things that I teach any of my students that go through any of my mediumship or psychic ability classes, is to learn to find a difference between how they feel in their energy versus the spirits they will be communicating with or trying to have contact with. If we don't know our own vibration and our own energy, it is hard to tell the difference when a different energy comes in. And so why we're able to sit in our energy, get to know ourselves, learn what it feels like to be in our own silent place, we then can open ourselves up into the messages that are trying to come in. Otherwise, we likely are thinking we're making it up, or that this is just something that our mind, our own mind, our ego is telling us. I have a few examples that I will share today about when I was communicating with spirits that it may have seemed like was my own voice. But the reason I was able to determine it was from another spirit was I was able to sense and feel that they did not feel like me. They didn't feel like my own energy, because I had been spending time meditating and quieting my mind and just paying attention to the shifts in the energy field around me and in me. And because I've been able to do that, and because I spend time in meditation, even if I'm not attempting to communicate with spirits or attempting to do any real work while I'm in the meditation, the stillness of the meditation, the quietness, the ability to ground yourself and just be still is enough for your vibration to shift and change. Now, if you do have trauma, or if you've been through a lot of things in your life, those vibrations are still in your aura, in your energy field, and they do need to be cleared out in order for you to raise your vibration to connect with your higher self more or spirit team. A lot of the trauma that we hold in our body is very dark and dense. And some people, even myself, I have seen it in my own body, describe it as like a tar, hot, sticky-like material. And trauma can hold us into a lower frequency and a lower emotion, and it will be hard to move through that into a higher frequency to communicate with your higher self or know that your higher self is speaking to you. One of the things that came through several years ago for me when I was really doing some deep healing of my own trauma is I was in a meditation and I had already started having communication with some of my loved ones that had passed on, including my dad and my grandparents and some other people that had came through to support me in my journey of healing. And during this particular meditation, I was really asking for support and guidance from my spirit team about releasing some of the trauma that I was trying to work through from my childhood. And just to give you a warning, I will share a little bit of a trigger warning here about some of the things I've been through my life. But as a young girl, I did have some sexual abuse, and this person, one of my stepdads that I had was the one that participated in that with me, or was the one that had abused me. And knowing this now as a soul, as a spirit who came to earth and to have experiences such as that, I'm able to go back and work through that and send forgiveness out for those times, knowing that in many ways that those experiences I went through had a purpose and a reason for me to become who I am today. Now, it doesn't mean it's right, and it doesn't mean that I should just accept that these things happened. However, it is my responsibility to heal from them. And through the healing of these things, I am able to raise my vibration and come into the calling and purpose that I am meant to have here on earth. And in many ways, my soul prior to coming to earth knew I was going to go through those things as a child and through my young adult life that would lower my vibration and cause me to forget who I am, and then come back into the remembrance and work through that healing to release those lower vibrations and traumas. And so this particular day, I was working through trying to release some of more of this trauma, and was having a really hard time understanding what I was still holding on to, because I felt like I'd made quite a bit of progress and had healed a lot, but I still feel a little stuck in my movement forward, in my growth and communicating with my spirit team and my spiritual gifts. And so I began seeking and asking, like, can I have some help from my spirit team or any loved ones that might want to come through? I had already been spending quite a bit of time just in silent meditation, working on my chakras, working on releasing all that low dense energy from the trauma. And so I believe that is why I was able to have this connection that came through in that day. As I was meditating, I began to feel my grandmother's spirit come through. And my grandmother passed when I was very young. I was only I think I was maybe 21. And I loved my grandmother. She was a wonderful person, and she was this smart businesswoman. And so I always admired her. But I hadn't really had contact with her a lot until this moment, and she hadn't came through and actually given me like really direct messages about my life and how to move forward in my life. And in this day, she came through, and I knew it was her because when she came in, I noticed my energy field change. I noticed that my vibration changed, and that it felt like a familiar feeling that I had when I was with her when she was on earth. And so immediately she came to my mind, and I sensed her before me in spirit. I did not see her. I did not have a visual in my third eye of her. However, I could almost smell her. I could almost like this knowing came up in me, and my energetic field changed in a point where I could feel her. And so she came through to me, and she said to me, "You have hate in your heart towards this person," which would have been my stepdad that had abused me. And at first I argued with her in her spirit, and I said, "No, I don't hate anyone. There's no way I could hate anybody. That is just not who I am. I'm not a person that hates. No matter how much people hurt me, I just don't hate." And she came back and said it to me again. She said, "Yes, you do, and you have hate in your heart towards this person and it needs to be seen to be released. In that moment, of course, it was a bit of a shock to my system to discover I had hate in my body. And at that point, I had a decision to make of whether I acknowledged it and went towards it to heal it, or I dismissed it and didn't believe that that was really there. I could have taken this message that I got from my grandmother spirit and believed I made this up. I could have thought that, because in my logical human ego mind, I had this idea that there was no way I could ever have this emotion in my body. But the reality of it is because of the deep pain that I went through as a young child and a young adult, I did have that emotion stored in my energy, and that energy of that emotion was causing me to be blocked from moving forward in my gifts. So for me, I had to deal with that emotion prior to growing in my abilities even more, which if you've ever gone through a healing journey of deep seated trauma and dark energies, you know how difficult it is to actually allow yourself to feel these emotions. And that is the only way that you're able to get through the emotion, is by turning towards them and facing them and feeling them. The way you can see these emotions and feelings that are in your body as separate entities, as things that are not truly you. So for me, for example, for the emotion of hate that I discovered I had in my body that day, I was able to work through that feeling by allowing myself to feel the hate, to acknowledge it, to speak it out, to say maybe what my little child self wasn't able to say in that moment. I got to speak it out for her as an adult. And so this was all on my own, alone, of course. And I was able to speak all this energy out of my body and then clear it out so that I didn't have that in my way. But I was able to see this as a separate energy than my true self. And that is how you release those lower vibration energies and feelings, is seeing them not as your identity, not as something that you hold on to and believe that you have to have these, or that they are you in some aspect. You see them almost as like an energy of dark, like a dark ball of energy that you can pull out of your body and then begin to speak with, and then send out of your body, to send out into the universe, to just disappear within the light. And so I was able to do that. I was able to acknowledge that. Now, I share that because sometimes what can happen when we are going through an awakening, or we're trying to attempt to raise our vibration to hear our higher self or our guides, these things can be blocking us. And so instead of seeking some like magical message from our higher self or our spirit team, or trying to figure out like what's wrong or whatever, maybe it's simply allowing ourselves to see what is really in us. And sometimes what we see isn't always fun to see. It's not always something that is encouraging or enlightening. Now, in that moment, I know if you listen to my prior video, I do talk about how your higher self and spirit guides and anyone in the spirit in a higher vibration is going to be speaking love and light into you. They're not going to talk negative to you. They're not going to put you down. They're not going to say things that make you feel bad. By my grandmother coming in and saying this to me, I could have taken that as her saying something negative to me or bad to me. However, the way she said it to me was in a loving, kind way of just like helping me to see and acknowledge what I already had in me. And she was able to, in her higher vibration, pull me back into my own energy to allow me to go inward and see that. Prior to that moment, I really honestly did not have any idea that I had that emotion or feeling inside of me, because I had done a really good job throughout my life working towards being light and love and trying to be an encouraging, kind person in this universe. And so for me to have been shown that and then turn back in to see that, I had to be brave enough to acknowledge it. So that's just one example that can come up for you if you are trying to seek finding a communication with a loved one or your higher self or a spirit guide. Those kind of messages can and will come through if you allow them to, but it's what you do with it afterwards. If that is something that you are interested in learning or you want to, or maybe you even had a message like that come through and you weren't sure what to do with it, feel free to reach out to me, set up a consultation with me. I offer one-on-one work. I offer 7-week programs or 3-month programs, whatever it is that you need to work through some of that lower vibration and trauma. I'm happy to help support you through that. Another thing to keep in mind, and I often speak and share this with my clients, is that when you're in that lower vibration, it's much like you're on a channel on the radio that a lot of people don't listen to. Let's say, for example, like one or 88.1, whatever on the radio station is like this talk show radio, and a few people listen to it. Some people like it, some people don't. People that are vibrating at that energy are going to tune into that and they're going to enjoy it. That's going to be where their vibration and where their frequency is connected to. But then there's going to be other people that enjoy like 99.2 or 100.3, whatever that station is on the radio. And this is what happens when you start to raise your vibration. You may have been connecting with this one station for most of your life and finding it to be just fine. Maybe you haven't even noticed that there were other stations that you could tune into. And then when you start to pay attention to yourself, when you have self-realization, when you acknowledge your emotions, you acknowledge what you're putting in your body, you acknowledge what you listen to or what you engage in or the people you're around, and you start to look around at these things, that immediately will start to raise your vibration. Now, you have to put in a little bit of effort to allow that to continue by starting meditation or getting with a healer to help heal your trauma or a therapist that understands this kind of work and being able to release energy and open up your energetic field, all these things. So that will take your effort within your ego self in order to help work with your ego to move that vibration higher. The most important thing to do in working with your ego is realizing that your ego just wants to be loved. Your body just wants to be loved by your higher self. And the reason that our ego and our body often fights against our higher self is because it doesn't feel loved. And so it wants to feel important. It wants to be seen. And the more we try to push away our ego or chastise it or say it's bad, the more it's going to fight against us as we try to work towards raising our vibration. So sending love and light into our ego, thanking it for protecting us, thanking us for those emotions that it had. Because if we didn't have those emotions, we wouldn't even know that we had this dark energy within us. The emotions actually are what teach us. The pain is our teacher. The pain is our ability to see things that need to be released so we can raise our vibration. And honestly, the pain is why we come to be a human. There wouldn't be a reason to be a human if we didn't have some type of experience with pain. So as we release these things, we start to raise our frequency and we start to tune into a different channel. In between those channels, it might be a little staticky. You may not hear a lot. There may be a little bit that comes through, but it won't be necessarily fully clear until you get to that next level of vibration and that frequency change. And then you'll start to hear again. And here's what happens is your guides will guide you into this. Your higher self will guide you into this, and you'll kind of level off for a while. You'll stay at this station, and it's a new station. It's a fun one, and you're learning and you're growing and you're hearing new things and you're experiencing new things. However, in order for you to grow, you have to get uncomfortable again. You have to get at a point where you outgrow that frequency or it starts to become a little boring or stagnant and you want to keep growing and healing. And so this is when something will pop back up in your life, like something that you've already healed or a new thing that you need to work on. I know for me, as I was going through a lot of my healing process and working through some of the trauma I went through in my life, it started out with one thing and I felt wonderful after I started healing that. But before I knew it, new things were popping up. And those things came with even deeper healing. Then I started having flashbacks. Then I started having somatic flashbacks where my body was remembering things. And this can happen as you're going through this process of healing, is your body will remember how it felt in those situations. And it can feel really difficult when you start to have those somatic feelings, but you have to allow yourself to have them in order to release them. And so each time I was able to rise in my vibration, I was taken into a deeper healing. And in those times, it might feel like you're going backwards. It might feel like, oh my gosh, I already healed this. I already dealt with this. This was not bothering me for the last 3 or 4 months or however long. And now here it is showing up again. It's not because you went backwards. It's because your higher self and your spirit team is showing you another layer that needs to be released in order to change the channel again, to rise up to the next frequency. And another thing can happen when you've reached this is it may seem like your guides just disappear. It may feel like your higher self is just really quiet. And this is for a reason as well. They kind of pull their energy back a little bit. They don't leave. They don't disappear out of your life. They just kind of pull their energy up a little bit, because in order for you to keep growing, you have to raise your vibration to that next level to meet with them again. So they know that you're here on a growing journey, that you're here to learn things. And so they work with you to help provide opportunities for you to do that. And they want to help us work through these lessons and these things that we came to learn on earth. They want to guide us through that process. And that's why something might come back up, or you may feel lost for a moment, or you may not feel their presence, or you may not hear them for a while. And that's because they know that your soul wanted to have a certain purpose and journey and a lesson. And so at that point, when you start to notice that maybe it goes silent, or you're going back into an old pattern, whatever, instead of, being upset about it, or being mean to your ego in some way, allow yourself to turn back to love. Allow yourself to turn back into those emotions. Start seeing them, feeling them again, doing the same things that you've done before. Even if you've already worked on it, keep doing it. Do it again. And every time you do that, your vibration will continue to rise. And you might get back into another staticky place where you're here and there, you're hearing things, or here and there, you're feeling things, but you'll get back into another station that's even higher, and then you'll start vibrating at that. And what happens each time you change your frequency, each time that you rise in a channel, or your vibration changes, the things around you start to change as well. The people start to change, because if you've been listening to rap your whole life and then suddenly you want to listen to country, the people that listen to rap that you've been hanging out with for your whole life, you're not going to really have anything in common anymore about that. So you'll kind of change your crowd into those people that do have a common frequency with you in that. And sometimes it becomes very lonely, because it's hard to find other people that are on that same vibration when you haven't been there before. They are out there. I have found more and more of them as I've continued to grow and heal and change my vibration, but it does take time. And sometimes in those in between stages where it's really staticky, the spirit will actually purposely put us into a place of being by ourselves, to feeling the loneliness, because in the loneliness, we raise our vibration. In the loneliness, we are forced to go inward, because there's no one to rely on, or there's no one to blame, or there's no one to kind of distract us even. So we have the opportunity to go inward during those times, to meditate more, to raise our vibration, and then spirit will start to bring things back around that are in that new vibration that we reach. So as you are raising and working through these things, this will open up your ability and your field of information within the higher realms to communicate more with your higher self, to communicate with your spirit team more, and to understand how you have that communication with them. Like I said in my last video, we all have a different way of communicating with spirit. I am not somebody that can physically, visibly see things very well. Once in a while, I'll do. Once in a while, I'll get little pictures in my head, but a lot of times it's just knowing for me. And so there's some teachers out there to say, if you can't see it, then it's not real. That's not true. Some of us just feel things. Some of us just sense things. Some of us just know things. And that's okay. So work within the thing that is easiest for you in that time and try to release the need to do whatever it is that is harder. And just work with your ego, because your ego is also a very important part of this. And your ego is going to want to like jump into something that seems cool or appears cool. But love that part of yourself. Let that part of yourself know it's okay that I'm not seeing things in my third eye right now. It's okay that I'm not just getting knowings. It's okay that my energy is not sensing things around me like it used to. And in that place, the more you love it, yourself, the more you love your ego, that changes the vibration, that releases the blocks, and then your gifts begin to open more. And that's when you start to realize, oh, this is how I hear spirit, or this is how I sense spirit, or this is how I see spirit, whatever it is, whatever way you are programmed by your higher self to hear from spirit. So I do hope this helps you to learn a little bit more about your vibration, your energy, and how to clear things out to rise in your frequency to hear your higher self and spirit team more. And again, if that is something that you would like support with or help with, please feel free to reach out to me. The link is in the bio and in the description, and you are welcome to schedule a 15-minute or a 30-minute consultation with me to see about working one-on-one with me, or if there is any other services that you would like to look into, you can visit my website, angieharris.org. Until we meet again, I wish you all the best day, night, evening, whatever time it is. I send you all the universal love. Namaste.